YouTube audience also. Glad to have you with us tonight. We're going to go over something that we went over before on this Transparency Thursday night. I'm glad that you're here. We won't be doing this the same way we did it the first time around. This is going to be a reboot of our discussion topic, building blocks to or for good relationships. And what I'm going to do is try to summarize the information that we were hoping to give at that last transmission, which really didn't do that well from what I understand from some of the listeners. Sometimes the mics weren't working well, the phones weren't working well, so there was a whole lot of things that were not going well. So I'm asking that you be patient as this pastor, non-technical geek wannabe will improve his skills and using the technology so that we can get across to each other some truths and help each other as we grow and learn on our journey in Christ. I want to appreciate Mark Gray II, that is Mark with a C, Gray II. Also Christopher, the son of Mike and Tasha Samuels, and Michael Jr. From the same family for chiming in with us and helping us with that first volume of Transparency Thursday, Building Blocks Tour for Good Relationships. So let me get started. I won't start back where we started before, but I want to give just some basic information. Now what I'd like for you to do though, is if you can hit me up on a chat on Facebook or however you communicate, that would be excellent. Now, I won't be able to see them here right now, but like immediately when we get done, I'll start responding. We can have some dialogue between us to discuss the different avenues that we will have presented for this evening. I don't want you to be nice, I want you to be honest. Don't want you to be rude, but want you to communicate well, not from an emotion of anger or frustration, but from, just like you're really trying to get somebody to understand your position on something. You just want somebody to listen. And I'll be honest with you, I am ready to listen to whatever we are able to bring up tonight and get resolved as we share our journey in Christ, because we are together. We are one body in Christ. There is no generation gap in Christ. I believe that that's a lie from the devil of hell. I don't even believe that there's a real generation gap even in our community, because I think it was sown into us by somebody else who was experiencing difficulty with their folks. But our people came to this country and maintained for a long time, living together 2, 3, 4 generations deep. And we've always had to deal with sometimes great-grandparents, grandparents, mom and dad, and then our own generation. We know how to communicate with each other. We've gotten a little bit impatient, I think all of us, as the generations have gone by, the years have gone by. What I'm holding is that we need to grab a hold of what we used to be like. We did talk, we did communicate with each other. So let's start something good tonight. Every once in a while, I'll take these little support pieces off and I'll put them back on when I can't see anymore. So don't let that bother you too much. It's just a bad habit. Maybe, and I haven't spoken to anybody about this, maybe even a tick. So we started our Transparency Thursday off 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about building blocks for good relationships, and we were going to focus on I think it was 3 areas. I'm sorry, we're going to focus on 1 area out of 2, which was friendships, just basic friendships, and also later on, not in this discussion, but later on, we'll talk about building good relationships. Okay, well, let me start off by saying this. A friend is a person that you know and that you have a bond with. Some kind of affection, you share love between each other, at least in a very filial or familial way. Friendships are typically exclusive. They don't include any kind of sexual or romantic relationships or playing around, stuff like that. You're just basically friends. That's basically what a friend is. The formal definition is that a friend is a person whom one knows and with whom one has a bond of mutual affection, typically exclusive of sexual or family relations. That's all I was trying to say in the first part. Now, the very point that I'm making at this point is a great place to start, because we've gotten to a place in our society now we call everybody friend. Hey friend, what's up? Hey friend, what's up? You know, now it's a little bit different than what we used to do in the community when I used to come up. We go, you know, what's up, bro? You know, stuff like that. And we were in reference to our commonality of race and culture. And there was something about that bond that kind of kept us or made us want to be together. So that's even at a different level. But a friend is somebody that you have some affection for, and it's not something that you're looking to be romantic about. So let's use that as a starting point. All right. Truthfully, family, friends, and romance are the three areas of relationship that we are mostly involved in. And listen, to have good relations or relationships in any of those areas, it's important that we learn how to, and I hear parents saying this today, I like the way they say it. They say to kids who are going, they say, use your words. And I think we've forgotten how to use words. Not just that we use words, but we've forgotten how to use words. And talking, listen, man, talking is important to each one of these relationships. Whether we're talking about being involved in family, whether we're talking about being basic friends, or whether we're talking about being together romantically. It's important that we learn how to talk to each other. Before I go real far, I want to share this principle because I shared it in the first week. I want to make sure that I get this in because this is the basis of what we do. I was sharing 3 of my favorite Bible verses that clarify what to expect from friends. Here they are. Exodus 33:11. I'm reading these from the King James text because I just happen to like the flow and the language that's used here at this point. Exodus 33 verse 11 says, "Thus the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friend." I thought that phrase, how the writer describes God speaking with Moses face to face, really speaks some special stuff to me. To me, it speaks of a level of intimacy and a level of honesty. And I think it's important to have both of those in any friendship relationship, both intimacy and honesty. You can't really go very far if you can't be honest with anybody, you know. And so I want to recommend that as we develop and think about developing, and I'm not talking about just with your age group. This is true anywhere. And I think the other thing that we need to be about doing, no matter what age we are, we kind of need to help each other learn that it's okay to be honest. I'm not talking about crude. Crude or cruel is not necessarily honesty. Honesty can be contained in crude or cruel remarks, but crude and cruel are not necessarily honesty themselves. We need to know how to get each other to the place where we feel safe. I heard somebody said that last time we were together, where we feel free and where we feel safe to be intimate and honest with our thoughts. And so that first verse, Exodus 33:11, the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friends. That's rich. That actually is, and I don't want to get into a biblical teaching thing, but that is actually the meaning, a great deal of the meaning when the Bible talks to us about prayer. Prayer is a face-to-face encounter with God, and if we're going to build friendships, we're going to have to learn how it is to be face-to-face with one another. So anyway, Exodus 33:11 was one of my favorite ones that I gave you before. And Proverbs 17:17, it says, "A friend loves at all times." Let's see, and I'm not sure why this is, why my eyes are so far away from you or turned down on you, but let me see if I can adjust that. Okay, here we go. "A friend loves at all times, but a brother is born for adversity." Okay, and the first part of that proverb is the one that I want to highlight. A friend loves at all times. I came up in a large family. There were 7 boys and 6 girls. I know what it feels like to come up battling each other, contending with each other, confronting each other about every little thing. And I know the difference because of the way I came up with my brothers. And I love them all even till today, and all of my sisters as well. But we contended with each other. And sometimes we contend with each other and sometimes there just was no immediate reconciliation. Okay? But a friend is somebody who loves you all the time. Friends are people you can transgress against a friend, and if that person's a real friend, if you have a real connection, you can find your way back to each other, because friends are people who need each other. They build each other. They thrive off of each other. Now, that is not to say that a friend won't make a mistake. Friends can make mistakes. Or the way we said today, friends can just downright screw up. But the reality is, if you're open and honest about you and them, you know that any one of us at any time is subject to mess up somewhere along the line. We may keep something from a friend. It may be a once in a lifetime thing, but we've had to make a judgment call all of a sudden, and we just determined that it was best for us not to tell our friend, and then they find out something, and they find out that we knew and we didn't tell them, and a whole big shindig breaks out. Sometimes friends can mess up. That's all we're saying. But a friend loves at all times. Brothers will fight you and find reasons to fight. We will. I was kind of on the bad end of some of the fights, but brothers are just going to combat. Friends don't live to combat. Friends live in harmony with you to find a reason to coexist, to find a reason to be in harmony. That's what a friend does. A friend is not a person who just cozies up for a short time until they get what they want. No, a friend tries to find a way to let you know we are connected and we will never be disconnected. Well, anyway, Proverbs says a friend loves at all times. And what that speaks to me, the reason why it speaks so strongly to me is because it seems to be indicating that a friend is patient and durable. That is, they're going to stay there. They're going to try over and over again. And the moment, if the friendship happens to have a breach or a break, a friend will suffer emotionally because of that. And so let me encourage at this point, for some of you who have messed up, or you've had friends to mess up some part in your life, don't hold them hostage. If it was a good friend at any time, that person can probably still be a good friend now. Now, there are some exceptions, but it's true that a real friend is durable, and they want to hang with you. They want to be with you. They're not bound by biology. They're bound by their affection for you. A good friend is. So Proverbs 17:17 speaks to me of a friend being patient and durable. And then the final one that I shared a couple of weeks ago was John 15, verse number 13, where Jesus is speaking, and he said, "Greater love hath no man than this, than a man lay down his life for his friend." Now, in the modern versions, it would read, "Greater love no one has than this, that a person lays down his life for his friend." What this speaks about is commitment and attachment. In opposition to patience and durability. This speaks of commitment and attachment. A friend does not easily break friendship. We understand when we're friends what it means to have you in our lives. We understand that. And we don't want to do things to share any level of uncommitment. No level of detachment does a friend want from another friend. Friends are committed and they are attached. Now, this is not a sermon. I want to throw some points out though at you so that you can hit me up on those chat rooms if you're there, and tell me what you're thinking with regard to some of this. All right, a couple of things. I was talking about talking before. Here's where I think we've dropped the ball somewhat. And I think in a significant way, our not talking or our not being willing to talk has caused us problems in a number of areas, relationally, certainly, community-wise, for sure. Politically, we have been definitely damaged because we wouldn't enter into the sphere of talking. And religiously, as far as African-American Christians are concerned, our not talking about the things that are significant and important to us and sharing them, it's helped us, the accumulation of all that kind of helped to create some of the environment where we are. So I want to talk about a little bit concerning the importance of talking. It's important to understand, first of all, what we mean when we open up our mouths to speak. I think probably some of you have done like me, and I've had to shut myself down. You get out in the middle of something and you say, and somebody says, well, what do you mean? And you try to explain it and you go, oh, I don't know, just forget it. Chances are you should have never said it. Because a person who is talking ought to understand what they mean when they speak. If you don't, it's the beginning of confusion. Know what you at least be clear on what you want to communicate. Now, the other side of this is that the speaker needs to clearly understand what he or she wants the other person to know. Know what you want a person to know. If you want to say, like there's a difference if you, just something basic like, I love you. There's a different way in the way you say that to different people. And you need to know what you're trying to communicate when you use the phrase, I love you, to a variety of different people. If you're saying it to a friend, I love you, man. You're not talking about anything physiological happening between you or romantically. But if you say that another way, you'll convey a whole different message. And whether you're talking to a man or to a woman, and if you talk to your child, you don't just say, oh, I love you, just like that. That doesn't communicate anything. You need to understand what you want to be communicated by your words. The listener on the other part, on the other end, or the hearer should have a clear understanding and be able to communicate what he or she, that is what the listener understands the speaker to have said. Don't get angry when people who are listening to you say, well, what do you mean? Do I understand that you're saying, we need to give space. I know that we're in a hurry to do everything today. But talking, we can lose a lot of stuff, man. We can lose friendships. We can lose love relationships. We can lose family relationships. It's worth it to take a minute to understand what somebody is trying to say. If you don't get it, ask them. Don't leave a conversation saying, well, that's what they said, and that's what I took it as. If you don't take it in the way that the speaker meant it, you are sowing the seed for a discontent between the two of you that the speaker may not even know exists. You're sowing a seed of your understanding, not of what the speaker said. And so I want to say to you, the listener needs to understand or have a clear understanding and be able to communicate back to the speaker what the listener understands the speaker to have said. So talking is important. And I know some folks say you talk too much. Well, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to understanding, let me put it that way. When it comes to understanding, you cannot talk too much. You talk until you understand. Well, let me say it this way. When there's a difference between what was said by the speaker and what was understood by the hearer, both the speaker and the hearer have to continue to talk to each other to come to a right understanding of what was meant when the speaker first said what they said. We've got to be patient enough to do that. We've got to lose our sense of anxiety that we just got to get to the next thing. You know, maybe one of the more damaging statements that we have started saying to each other is, "I ain't got time to hear that." You should. You should take the time to hear what somebody says. Listen, if it's your husband or your wife, your boyfriend or your girlfriend, if it's your close friend, if it's your childhood friend, it's worth it to take the time to understand what they have said to you before you take your understanding, or maybe even better said, your misunderstanding, and allow it to be buried into your heart. That will be the seed for division. That'll be the seed for confusion. Well, another area I think that we need to deal with, some anyway, we kind of need to understand something about what we're talking about. This is unstable water where I'm going. We need to understand that whether the subject we're talking about is an opinion or if it's some truth. Now, for some of us, we're going to have to ask ourselves the question, does an opinion equal the truth? But it is important to understand what are we talking about? Are we talking about an opinion? I think I gave the example, and this is a foolish example, but I'm going to give it anyway. I was talking to my grandson, and I said, "Hey, listen, man, it's a fact. LeBron James must be the worst big man to ever come out and play in the NBA. You know, and for me, that's just a fact." Well, is the reality that I spoke that? Does my speaking it make it truth? Do I have the right to say, well, and now everybody who's listening can come out and argue that down really quick. I get that. I know it. But my point is, does the fact that I said it make it true, or is that just an opinion? What might be the difference between what I see when I said it as truth or an opinion? Does truth equal opinion? You know, if I said, right now it's dry outside. If I said, wow, it is just so wet outside, and somebody else who's in the same, sharing the same physiological space says, no, it isn't. There's no rain, there's no dew, the sun has been shining bright all day. The ground, when I touch the ground, I get no moisture on my hands. Which one of us is telling the truth? And so I'm submitting to you that we need to know whether what we're saying is opinion or truth. Now, let me mention this here, because it's something that I shared the last time we were together. A fact is a statement or thing that is indisputably the case. A fact is a statement or thing that is indisputable. There's just so much evidence of it, it can't be argued away. Okay? Truth is a statement that is in accordance with fact or reality. Let me say that again. Truth is a statement that is in accordance with fact or reality. In other words, truth is concrete. Like, well, let me use that. I might say the concrete is hard. You can say, oh no, Rob, the concrete's not hard. I said, go ahead and bang your head on it. You figure it out. That'll give you the concrete proof that the concrete is hard. Okay? But you can't get up after banging your head on that concrete and now you got blood all over the place and say, oh no, that wasn't really hard. It was the softness that busted my head. You know? No, it doesn't work like that. Okay? Now, opinion, on the other hand, is a view or judgment that's formed about something, not necessarily, that is opinion, not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. You can have an opinion that is not based on fact or knowledge. In fact, most opinions are based on, not based on fact or knowledge. It's my opinion that the sky is green tonight. Well, the reality is that it looks a bit silvery from where I'm sitting. And I could use my camera, take a picture of that, and get the concrete proof of that. But an opinion is a view or judgment that's formed about something not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. Let me pause for a minute. I know I can't see I didn't open up, I probably can open up a chat room here, and I did not. So I'll see you when I get to the Facebook side. But let me give you a minute to kind of write down some of the things that you're thinking. And in about 30 seconds, I'll just kick back in gear and talk about 4 essential areas of communication. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, my 30 seconds are up. All right. Listening is the key to understanding any person. Talking is critical in helping other people to understand you. Let me say that again. Listening is the key to understanding any person. Talking is critical in helping other people understand you. Well, there is another kind of communication. It's called body language. And I think that we should be aware of and appreciate sometimes the physical discomfort, or in other times the delight that's caused by verbal communication. No matter what we say, because we all come from different family environments, some bodily movements or facial expressions and our sounds indicate that we accept or reject, like or dislike, respect or disrespect a thing that was said. Our bodies indicate that. Each person who's in a conversation should be self-aware and know your own tics. I am told, I've never seen it, but I'm told that I occasionally do an eye roll. I don't even know what that looks like on me, all right? But I'm told that's what happens. So because so many people have said that, now I have a consciousness of it. I got to be careful that when somebody's talking and like I'm saying, okay, I'm not with this, and I may go however that goes. I'll figure that out after a while. But anyway, we've got to be aware of our own tics. Body language is speaking or sending a message through movement of some kind. And you got to be aware that sometimes, man, you talk. Somebody's talking and you twisting and turning, you twisting your mouth, and your head is up in the air. You know, it indicates to the individual, and this is all culturally based. It indicates to a person, depending on which cultural setting they come from, that maybe you have no interest in what they're saying. You know, and now I'm going to get all up in the air. I'm going to say, oh, you want me to hear everything that you got to say, but you ain't got time to hear what I'm saying, You know, so we need to be aware of our own body language. So there are some areas of there are some unspoken principles, I should say, of communication. Okay, and body language is kind of throws a bunch of stuff out. Let me say this. There's some stuff that we kind of mess up after a while. I said to a group of my friends not long ago, we talk about a whole bunch of stuff, whether it's family or race relationships, or the relationship of the church to the community, whatever it is. Invariably, these two words come up. People have to learn how to be tolerant, or they'll say people have to learn to accept one another. I want to take a minute and just kind of break down, because there's a difference between the two of these. And even in the most recent edition of the dictionaries, Oxford and Merriam-Webster, they have fallen into the trap. But tolerance primarily is enduring an unacceptable word or behavior in or from each other while you're in the process of building the relationship. Tolerance is facilitated by love, by patience, by understanding, and self-control, because tolerance always says it's not always going to be like this. I can endure it. I can endure this flaw until it changes. That's what tolerance is. Acceptance, on the other hand, is treating a behavior or practice as normal for one's social environment or for the social environment. There's a difference between the two. And I would argue that we missed being at the table when the broader society started redefining these words, and it's causing a lot of stuff between us. In marriages now, we don't know whether we're talking about tolerating each other or accepting each other. Our children, we don't know whether to tolerate an F-bomb from a 3-year-old or to accept it. What are we talking about doing with that? And because we are no longer talking to each other and understanding each other at the level of words, we're losing some of the battles that we should be winning in our homes, in our schools, in our churches, in our communities as we walk around. We're losing some stuff. Well, I'll say this. The benefit of accepting each other as equal persons without necessarily accepting all behavior as normal, having the ability to do that builds respect. It enlarges our circle. Our circle of help. I'm here by myself, so I'm only, polluting me. Enlarges our circle of help, builds our self-control, moderates our criticism, and amplifies our relationships or relationship creativity. There is a benefit for us of accepting each other as equal persons without accepting all behavior as normal. Okay? And it builds respect, enlarges our circle of help, builds self-control, moderates our criticism of one another, and amplifies our relationship creativity. So we need to learn the difference between tolerating something and accepting it. We need to understand how when we do learn to accept stuff, what the end result is, and also when we learn how to tolerate people, we know how to do that. We need both of those. Well, there are a couple of relationship blockers. I'm going to be done with this in a couple of minutes, but I want to mention, through the years I've learned that there's some relationship blockers. I was married to a wonderful woman over 40 years, and if the Lord hadn't taken her home, we'd still be together today. But God promised her eternal life, and He gave it to her, and just like that, she was gone, and I'm going to be gone too one day. So, but I learned this being with her and being with the people who were in our friendship circle well over 40 years. Arrogance blocks relationships. The minute you start thinking that you got it going on more than everybody else, I don't care how smart you are, how educated you are, I don't care how much mother wit you have, how much street cred or street wit you have, you get arrogant and you're going to block some really good relationships. Insensitivity is another thing. Man, it's difficult when you're communicating to people I don't care. Man, it's one of the phrases that I can't stand the most. I can't stand to hear children when somebody says, "Oh, you hurt mommy's feelings," and they go, "I don't care." My typical response is, shame on you. You should be ashamed because you should care. Caring is a major part of your humanity. You were made to care. You were made to want a better outcome. So us being insensitive, that's not some kind of bravado. I don't care who I hurt. You ought to care because you're not a beast. You're a human. And we ought to be sensitive about some stuff. I'm not talking about overly sensitive, like nobody can say anything to you at all. Football players on the field going to a huddle, you think they're talking about you. Look, I ain't talking about that kind of sensitivity. I'm talking about being aware. Okay? Insensitivity is definitely a relationship blocker. One of the ones that I've heard over the years in doing counseling, and I'm not talking about anybody specifically, but in doing counseling, I used to hear this. I've got a couple. I'm talking to them about stuff, and somebody says, "Well, you knew that about me, when you met me, so now you expect me to change." And that can come from the male or the female. You know, what they're not sensitive to is the fact that real love changes people. It does. I don't care who you are. And not just romantic love, but a real friendship love, which make you change your behavior towards somebody. So insensitivity can often be a relationship blocker. Anger, look. And here's where I think we jumped off the ship, you know. We justify everything that we do today, you know. But anyway, anger is one of those things that can really destroy a relationship. Talking through your anger can be the best thing that you ever do. Go cool down somewhere, go chill out somewhere, and then come back and express in words how you're feeling. Don't express it in an action. Express it in your words how you're feeling, and let that thing take the air out of that hot air balloon. Let that thing come down to size so that you can at least see each other and begin to appreciate and respect each other again, because anger will lead you to disrespect. Anger will lead you to damage in your relationship. Jealousy is a relationship blocker. Man, the worst thing in the world is to be in a relationship with somebody, a friendship relationship, and you can't be friends with nobody else. Really, that's horrible. This is my friend, and that's my friend only. If I see him talking to somebody else, I'm mad. You know, if he goes and does something with somebody else, I'm mad. Man, who does that? Only jealous people. And it will cause jealous people to lose friendships. So if you want to keep your friendships, lose your jealousy. Greed, that's another thing. Definitely a relationship blocker. Because there are some friends who are givers and others who are takers. And when the taking part of the friendship overwhelms or becomes apparent to the one who's always giving, that greedy person will get mad and walk out likely if they can't get what they want. And then finally, selfishness. We're made to share ourselves. We're not made so that we are. It's all about me. You know, if you're going to be my friend, you got to understand my way. This is my way. Really? This is my way. This is just the way I do it. No, that's not real friendship. So let me start closing out by giving just these few principles, about 5 of them, principles of communication. Number 1, talking or body language, whatever, you need to exercise love. And here's what I mean by that, because we're not talking about some mushy emotion. We're talking about, in your talking, you want the person that you're talking to be blessed and get the best possible resource from what you're saying. You talk like you mean somebody good, not like you want to destroy them. First principle of communication: love people. Care what you say and how you say it. Second principle: tolerance. Look, we all have tics, we all have faults. We need to learn how to have hope for each other. And here's one of the things that's a good segue. This is where the gospel message comes in. It is the message that gives us the hope that whatever we are now, we don't have to be stuck there if it's not where we're supposed to be. So we learn to tolerate each other until we get better. And each of us has a better to get. None of us have it all together. But we're learning in this journey. Third principle of communication is acceptance. Accept where a person is. You can accept it. You can accept where a person is. And you learn how to accept conversation, communication from another person, just like you want them to accept conversation and communication from you. The fourth thing that I'll mention is there's definitely a need for patience. We do live in a world that's like really hurried. We don't want to take time and let things develop. We want it now. Everything doesn't happen in an instant. The only one that can push that kind of button is God himself. But as far as human beings are concerned, we need to exercise patience with each other. If a person has a fault, be patient. Allow them the time to grow and develop, just as you ask God for the time to develop yourself. I think I'll do two more. Respect. You've got to show that you at least honor my presence and that you respect the fact that I am there. Don't talk to me like I'm a dog. Don't disrespect me. Don't act like I don't matter, in other words. Treat me as though I do matter. And finally, this one I didn't plan to do, but don't forget to be forgiving. Everybody makes mistakes. Sometimes they're pretty big mistakes, but big is relative. Everybody makes mistakes. And so, be willing to forgive. And from a biblical perspective, if I were going back to the original languages of the Bible for an explanation, I would say to you that that idea of forgiving is hiding someone's fault from yourself every time it comes up until the time where it doesn't come up anymore in your mind. So you don't have to plan to forget. You simply keep forgiving. That means keep moving the thing that your friend has done out of your way. When that friend says, forgive me, he or she is literally saying, will you please not have that in front of you anymore? I apologize. I repent. I'm sorry. I would not do that again if I had the opportunity. If that person asks for your forgiveness, they are asking for you to move that thing away from your consciousness. Now, because you do it once doesn't mean it's completely gone. So the next time it comes up, you've got to move it again. And you've got to fight with yourself now to keep moving it every time it comes up. But that's what we're asking God to do when we say, Lord, forgive me. So be willing to give forgiveness to others. At the bottom line, one of his plays, William Shakespeare wrote a statement. He said, to be or not to be, that is the question, right? I think it was in Othello, I'm not sure. But I have a different phrase. To change or not to change. That's the real question of relationship. Everybody who's in a good, loving relationship changes and accommodates a friend in some way. And so, I hope that you've burned up my Facebook thing so that you can tell me what you're thinking. And let's get on the road to building some solid relationships. Look, the world is cruel. But it gets more cruel when people like you and me lose our humanity because we want to be right, because we want to be seen, because we want to be the man or the woman. Let's learn how to talk to each other. Let's learn how to communicate with each other and build some good friendships. God bless. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen. And I'll be, writing back to you shortly regarding your comments. God bless. Have a great night.